All right, welcome back to the channel, man. So let's talk about a fun one. Kieth Thurman says that he is willing to go to the UK to fight Special K Brook. Let's talk about the potential of that fight happening, what would happen in that fight in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Man, I feel like I'm in fantasy matchup heaven over the last couple weeks because there's been so many talks about people making fights with each other that I thought was just fights that just had gone by the wayside and had no chance whatsoever of taking place. Now, before I get into the meat of it, though, I want to let you know that that the way that I view these things might be a little bit different than many people. I've been a boxing fan for a very long time, and in my experience, one of the best things about boxing or the thing that I like the most about boxing are the conversations that go on around fights that have already taken place, fights that are going to take place, and fights that people want to take place that may never take place. But still, the fact that you get to talk about and go through the potential outcome of a fight between two people or between two fighters, I find to be very, very fun. I think it challenges my and makes me look at their fights. It makes me, slow down their tapes, go back to watch fights I haven't seen in a long time, just to kind of see how the guys would match up, see how, you know what I mean? It forces me to learn more about the sport of boxing when I envision or when people ask me about fights that may take place or may not take place, right? So you're just not going to ever get from me, a conversation that goes like this. Well, that fight is never going to happen, so why are we even talking about it? It's not going to happen, or it's a year or two away from it. Why should we even talk about it? Talk about it because we love the sport of boxing, and because you're in your mind's eye, it's good to figure out whether or not you can predict a fight. Like last year in 2019, I think I only missed, in 2019, I think I might have missed 2 fights. I might have been off on 2 fights. Now, I think that is less a result of my, outstanding knowledge in the sport of boxing and more related to the fact that there are so many mismatches in boxing that you almost always know the outcome. But whatever the case is, hey, I had a pretty good year and I'm looking forward to trying to make predictions about what would happen in fights going on in 2021. I find that fun. I enjoy talking about people. So if you're not one of those people, hey man, YouTube boxing, might not be, other than go watch some old fights, right? And enjoy that. I enjoy it when people like Kieth Thurman says, hey, I'll go to the UK to fight Kell Brook. My thought is, man, please let that happen. Please let that happen, because Kell Brook versus Kieth Thurman is something that should have happened back in 2017. Was that 2000? Yeah, it's 2017 that Kell Brook lost his IBF championship to Errol Spence. But so maybe it was 2016 time frame that fight should have popped off, because Kell Brook had fought Gennady Golovkin and he had to take some time off because his orbital bone got broke. So somewhere in the 2016 time frame, and definitely early 2017, Kell Brook was active and had the IBF champion, and Kieth Thurman was not yet injured and was active. So that fight really, at a point in time, sorry about that. That fight at a point in time could have been the best fight to take place at 147 pounds. Kell Brook is a terrific fighter. Kieth Thurman is a terrific fighter. But anyway, now that we are where we are, obviously that's not the case anymore. It's not going to be the type of fight, or wouldn't be the type of fight that would be considered, the best fight at 147 pounds. But I do believe that it would be a fight between two guys that don't have titles that would be an exceptional fight. I did a video earlier today. It's probably going to come out, I suspect it'll come out later than this video, where I talked about Adrian Bronner and Regis Prograis. Neither one of those guys have belts. They both are named fighters, right? Adrian Bronner a little bit more so than than Regis Prograis, but still a fight that if they both had titles, people would say, oh, this is a great fight. Let's make it happen, right? I'd love to see the fight. But if they don't have titles, it's still the same two fighters, and it's still going to be an excellent fight. And somebody in that fight between Adrian Bronner and Regis Prograis, somebody's going bye-bye. You know what I mean? Or somebody's going to be taking a serious amount of whooping. And Adrian Bronner got a nice chin, and Regis Prograis more than willing to hit him on it. So, hey, I say let's make it happen. So same thing goes for Kell Brook and Kieth Thurman. Yeah, Kieth Thurman has been injured. He's not the same, according to many people, and it could be, or let me put it this way. It is a reasonable stance to take that Kieth Thurman is no longer the Kieth Thurman that beat Danny Garcia, that beat Sean Porter, that beat Robert the Ghost Guerrero, right? The guy that was the unified WBA and WBC champion, Kieth one-time Thurman, that had a lot of excitement around him. He may not be that guy anymore because of the injuries, because of the time off. What he said about it is that he was undisciplined about his weight. So, all those type of things, but still, he's still Kieth Thurman. He's still a world-class fighter. He's still a former world champion and somebody that could give a good fight that there's no reason to believe can't give a good fight to most, if not everybody in the welterweight division. And I think the same thing for Kell Brook. I've not still, other than one fight that I've heard where people are like, oh, Kell Brook really underperformed against some guy over there in the UK that he probably wasn't even that interested in fighting to begin with, provided that Kell Brook's eyes can hold up. And that's the same caveat with, that I would apply to Kieth Thurman's, our hand or whatever, one of the multitude of injuries that the Kieth Thurman says that he has. If those things hold up, I mean, Kell Brook is still a top level fighter. Now, the problem with the fight with between the two, there's many problems with that fight. For example, it's not known whether or not Kell Brook can really make 147 pounds. He's a big welterweight to begin with, and he was a big welterweight 4 years ago. And when he lost to Errol Spence Jr., that's the one thing that he talked about that people were talking about a lot before the fight began, and a lot of what Kell Brook was talking about after the fight was over, after he lost his title to Errol Spence, is that, hey man, it's too hard to get down in weight. So, where would the fight between Kieth Thurman and Kell Brook be as far as weight class, right? You don't know. Would it be at a catch weight of 152, or, would it be at a 154 pound fight? Can Kell Brook already get all the way down to 147? I mean, Kieth Thurman seems like he can still get down to 147, but what he needs to do in order to get down to 147 might be, a different question altogether. But at least Kieth Thurman doesn't seem like he's going to be leaving the weight class while Kell Brook, on the other hand, definitely seems like he might have graduated from it. Now, the other issue with that fight taking place, right now, obviously, is the fact that you have the coronavirus, that the COVID-19 is out, and how are you going to get getting in and out of the UK or getting in and out of the US, and the amount, and the fact that you have to be quarantined for a good amount of time, all of that stuff might make it a lot more difficult for the fight to get made in the UK. Now, I know Kieth Thurman said that he was interested and he would go to the UK, just send me the contract, and I'll go to the UK. But that's easier. That really is easier said than done. However, the fight for both of them, I think that it's a very realistic fight, because I don't think Kell Brook is going to duck anybody. Personally, I'm a big supporter of Errol Spence Jr. I am out front with that, but I do believe that Kell Brook is a very, very solid fighter. I also think that he's a guy with a lot of heart, because Kell Brook would come over to the United States and he sought out Terrence Crawford in the United States to try to, to talk to Terrence Crawford and try to get a fight with Terrence Crawford, right? He also did the same thing. I do believe that maybe that Errol Spence Jr. was in the same area, or it might have been a different time that he came to the United States to see a fight and was pushing for a fight with Errol Spence Jr. The fact that he took the fight with Errol Spence Jr. to begin with, the fact that he took a fight with Gennady Golovkin to begin with, tells you that this guy is the dude is a tough character. And if the money was right, and if Kieth Thurman was serious about fighting Kell Brook, I believe Kell Brook would make that fight. I also think the same thing for Kieth Thurman. I think that Kieth Thurman, from what I believe what he's saying. Now I know Kieth Thurman, he does a lot of talking, right? And he's kind of not a lot of talking and like talking too much, but he's kind of slick. He can contradict himself here and there, and he plays, he's got the silver tongue, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he ain't gonna back it up and try to fight this guy if there's money on the table. And quite honestly, I don't know if there's any better option for Kieth Thurman out there than Kell Brook. Because I don't see Sean Porter ain't really acting like Sean Porter acts like he really wants the Errol Spence fight. Danny Garcia has the Errol Spence fight. Manny Pacquiao already beat him. Kieth Thurman says he doesn't want to fight Terrence Crawford, and you obviously have the issues, with the monetary issues with Terrence Crawford, and the fact that you got to split all that money up between the PBC and Top Rank. So anyway, I certainly hope the fight takes place. You let me know what you think about the potential fight. Who do you think would win? How do you think it would play out? Also, special thank you to everybody that is a member of the channel. And if you're not a member, hey, or if you're not a subscriber, I ask you, hey, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. And when you hit the bell icon, make sure that you make it sure that you select to get all notifications so that you can know when things are released. And also thank you to everybody that supports on the Patreon, and everybody supports as a channel members and in the live streams with the super chats and the cash apps. You guys are greatly appreciated. Anyway, that's me on this topic. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.